Jananim Saradam Devim Ramakrishnan Jagadgurum Padapadme Tayo Shritva Pranamami Muhurmuhu Namah Shri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Suraye Satchit Sukha Swarupaya Swamine Tapaharine. My respectful pranams to revered Swamijis and greetings to all the devotees present here. It's nice to be here again after many years speaking at this place. Some of you might have come to those classes which used to be held here on Sundays for about 10 to 11 years. Every Sunday, whenever revered Swami Gautamanji was not in town, so I used to have the occasion to come and share some thoughts on different Upanishads. Today we are here as part of this Antaryogam. So just now Maharaj introduced that I have come from Kanpur now. So Kanpur, as you know, it's in Uttar Pradesh, and we have a center there which was started way back in 1930s by one of the direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, Swami Vivekananda ji Maharaj. He came and laid the foundation for the small shrine that exists there. So I have come from that ashram, and this kind of meeting here, talking about a spiritual subject, spiritual matter, is always very enriching. The subject itself is how to enrich our lives by looking within. But even otherwise, coming and sitting where people are discussing about how to enrich our inner life in general through satsanga, through prayer, through bhajan, through meditation, through thinking over or contemplating on the thoughts of the Holy Trio itself is enriching. This subject is a very important, it refers to a very important principle of our life, which is looking within. What is looking within? And what is within and what is without? What is that line that demarcates outside and inside? And what is inside, therefore? There we have to look in. So let us think over it. So I take this as an opportunity to discuss this matter, this subject, from the viewpoint of Kathopanishad. As you know, Kathopanishad is one of the important Upanishads, and Swami Vivekananda laid so much emphasis that we should read Upanishads. Upanishads should be our guiding principles, their teachings, their wisdom. We should try to practice in our lives. There was a time when the Upanishads were not available for many people. As Swami Vivekananda himself says, it is something like, they used to say it is all rahasya vidya, it is all secret teaching. But later on, it became more available, and after Swami Vivekananda came into picture 125 years back, now many more translations have come from Sanskrit to different languages, including English or non-English languages. So Upanishads are available to us, and we must be very thankful to the translators who have put this across, although reading in Sanskrit would be the first option. As we know, in English it all travelled through the Dara Shikoh, who was the brother of Aurangzeb, who got them into Persian language, And then from there it came into English, and now of course we have translations by several other people. So these Upanishads, especially the Kathopanishad, they always tell us to turn within. If you look at the journey of the Upanishads itself, look at the Vedas, look at the Purva Mimamsa and Uttar Mimamsa. As you know, the Vedas, when we use the word Vedas, generally the term comes before us is a lot of yajnas. And in order to do yajnas, which is meant to fulfill the desires, we have desires, human beings have desires. So to fulfill that, first they do a lot of yajnas. So that was the first Vedic understanding of life, that if you want to fulfill your desires, pray to those gods, invoke their presence, invoke their blessings, and for that yajnas were done. Fire was lit and mantras were recited and certain procedures were followed, and it was said that these are very effective yajnas. But doing them would involve collection of lot of things, lot of material, lot of putting together things, arrangements. Yojakaha tatra durlabha, as it is said. Putting them together was not easy. And many of these yajnas, when they gave their fruits to human beings, none of these fruits were eternal. None of the subjects, none of the results of these yajnas were there forever. Because whatever you get in this world is, after all, within the time frame, within the situation frame, or as they call it is desha, jati, desha and samaya, and different nimittas, different circumstances make it happen. So the next step in the Vedas itself, we find there is a search not only for fulfillment of desires through yajnas, but why not do them mentally? So they come to what we call as upasanas, a mental worship of the Devata, mental worship of the Lord, not just to fulfill desires, but to seek some spiritual benefit out of it. And then finally, we find in this journey of development, if you have to put it this way, the Vedas became very much pithy, very short, the message of the Vedas. And this is what is called the Upanishads. Upanishads are not just like if you see a book and you say, Acha, this is in the beginning, this is the list of chapters, and these are the chapters, and at the end there are some appendixes. So that is how the Vedas are organized. No, this is not the way. They have the organization of the Vedas. You will find the Upanishads, which we are speaking of. They are here and there as part of the different Vedas. So of these Upanishads, the Kathopanishad, as I said, Swami Vivekananda would very much appreciate. Particularly he liked the great Shraddha of the Nachiketa, the young boy, who kind of took a courage to ask his own father that what you are doing as a yajna, you are not doing it sincerely. Ananda namate lokastam te gacchati. By doing this, you will go to a loka or a afterlife place where you will not have happiness because you have not done it sincerely. It will not bear the fruits which you are seeking. So, since I am also your property, the boy says, so whom you are going to give me away? So the father, gets irritated, and finally first time, second time and third time, and tells him, I give you to Yama. Now no father can ever say that his son should go to death. But then the little boy, he argues with his father, now once you have said it, let us not retract your own statement, let me go. So he goes to Yamaloka, and there, since Yama is not available, and those 3 days he waits, and finally, in lieu of what was not, in lieu of those 3 days, the Yamaraja or Yama offers him 3 boons. And these first boon he takes, as the first one, that his father's anger should subside. Second, how to do a particular yajna to go to heaven, which he says that this is what most people want. They want to go to heaven. So what is heaven? That all my problems here minus all the good things that I want minus the problems is called Swarga. That suppose I want to have something in this world, that is the nature of things, that whatever you have, it is also accompanied by some kind of difficulty, some kind of abhava. It doesn't last long. So let me go to a place where all these things will be available without any repercussions. So that's what people think of as a place called Swarga. But none of these Swargas, as per the Sanatana Dharma understanding or Vedanta tradition, none of them are forever. Swami Vivekananda in one place makes an observation. In fact, the Vedas mainly mentions Swarga. Narka is very little mentioned. And only later on, some Puranas have added more and more details about Narka. That's what Swamiji makes an observation. So, since it is not permanent, so what's the next? The third boon is what we would focus on, not the whole of it, but the discussion which he initiates. He says that some people say after death, there's nothing, he's gone. Which means he was just a bag of ashes. Now the bag is gone. There was nothing remained about him. Or some people say, no, after death he is there. So there is something more subtler than the gross body. So what is that subtle thing? Is it really there? I want to know if there is Atman, the term Atman comes in there. So this is a question which comes to all of us also. Whenever we see somebody dying, whenever we find a threat to our own lives also, we think over it, what's going to happen now? Where shall I go or where he has gone? So what is that beyond? And who is that which is going? Not only where, but who is he? Which means, what is a human being? So what is a human being is something which we have been searching, we have been wanting in various ways to understand. Be it scientific way, where or medical way, where there is one understanding of human life, or there is a psychological understanding of human personality. Sometimes if you go from very other side, even economic, social, this also is some attempts to understand. But they don't go very deep into the real nature of man at all. It's only when you come to spiritual masters that you understand human beings in depth. And these masters tell us that we are not just a body, we are not even the mind, we are not even our senses. These are all like different coverings that we have, and we have become so identified with these coverings. Suppose somebody is to sit in a car and he drives it for 20 hours for a very long journey, and he becomes so identified with the 20 hours of travel that he thinks he is part of the car. How funny it would be. You ask him to come out, he says, no, I cannot come out, I am the car. Or somebody is wearing a shirt and he has been wearing it too long. And sometimes you come across people who are, destitute people. And there is one organization, it is in Haryana and Gujarat and some other parts of North India also, where they catch hold of these beggars who are going on the streets. Sometimes you catch, of course sometimes there is a protest also, but they will catch them and try to give them a bath. It's such a tough job. Somebody was caught, he had not taken bath for 15 months. So clothes after clothes. So you remove, you actually tear them off. There is no removing. He has become so identified with those clothes, he doesn't want to let them go. So we have also been wearing these clothes called our body, called our different mental sheets, and become so identified with them that What the Patanjali Yoga Sutra says, that we become very much frightened. If somebody says this cloth will be torn away from you. Abhinivesha, there is a term used for fear. Abhinivesha means we are thoroughly gone into, we have entered into the shirt that we wear, shirt called our body, shirt called our mind, shirt called our various tendencies. Suppose we say this is the only shirt, there is something separate from us. What are we then? This is the question that Upanishads, and through that we'll find what Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother, Swami Vivekananda, and many other great sages have placed before us, that we are essentially divine, we are essentially spirit. Now, our subject is, how do we enrich our life by this understanding? In the Kathopanishad, in the second chapter, in the Prathama Valli, there is a very famous verse, and this verse indicates what we should do when we are saying that we have to turn within. First of all, we take it as a granted truth that we are not just the body, we are not just the mind, we are something which has got identified with body. And this identification with the body means getting identified with our senses to begin with, which means all our knowledge and activity happens through senses. So we have what we call as we have the karmendriyas and we have the jnanendriyas. Now we are seeing, we are hearing, we are experiencing smell or the texture of its surface. This is all through the senses. We carry on our mobility, we walk, we do things, we attend to various functions of our body. They are all connected with our senses. So these senses, if we have a common sense about the senses, if we look at them, we say our senses are always coming in touch with their objects. And this is what the Upanishad says, that they are always trying to go out. Paranchikhani vyatranat swayambhus tasmat parang pashyati na antaratma. Since our focus of attention, our mind, is so deeply into this experiencing the world through the senses, and is so deeply attached to that, it is a kind of, the Upanishads uses the word, it's a kind of a curse for us. Paranchikhani means those going out, they have been as if cursed. The senses as if, because they don't look within, our understanding only goes out. Therefore, we only experience tasmat parang pashyati, outside things we experience. Na antaratma. We don't experience the self within. Suppose we were to experience the self within, what would happen? Whenever we experience a little of peace, whenever we experience a little of bliss in our lives, let us remember that has come from the Atman. It is not the object themselves. Object themselves would not give us that happiness or that peace. One example that is given is, suppose you are very much wanting to have ice cream. Anything, we take example of ice cream. And that desire makes your chitta, your mind, very troubled. Oh, I must have ice cream, I must have ice cream. You go on repeating. And after your efforts, after putting money together, after getting objects together, after going to the right place, finally, when the object of experience here, the ice cream, comes to you, and the Upanishads say at that time, for a short while, as if the mind becomes quiet. And the moment it becomes quiet, the light of the self, the Atman, gets reflected. And that is what we call as happiness. Somebody might say, no, I like ice cream and ice cream gives me happiness. Well, when you are very deeply disturbed, if somebody comes and gives you, here is the ice cream, here is your rasagulla, or here is something which you like, you don't feel any interest in that. Which means although the object was there, yet the object did not give you that peace, did not give you that bliss. In other words, when we say here, tasmat pashyati na antaratman, since we are always busy with our sensory experiences and we have developed likes and dislikes for that, raga and dvesha for that, we just do not ever look within where the actual source of happiness and peace is. This is a fact which has been placed before us by the Upanishads, that whenever you are experiencing at a very personal level some peace, it is because your mind has temporarily become quiet. If it has to become permanently quiet, which means all its inner distractions, desires must go, then only it will become permanently quiet. But it is not so easy to give up desires. We all know this. Although we want to give up desires, but we know how we cling to them and they cling to us. So it's a process. This process of removal or process of purifying the mind is what we call as sadhana. Sadhana is how we slowly train the mind to turn within and discover that what we were searching outside is actually right here within. Sri Ramakrishna gives an example, you know that. It's worth repeating always. He says there was a person who used to smoke. In those days there was no matchbox, or he didn't have the matchbox. So he said, oh, I need a smoke, but there is no fire burning in my house. So he takes a lantern and goes to his neighbor's place. Hey, can you give me some small fire so that I can light a smoke? I can light a hookah. Then he says, Are, you are holding that lantern which is having a fire inside it. Why don't you take it from there itself? Already you are having the fire within you. So same way, although you have within, in the Kashi side, there is the great Kabir Das. He says, Jal vich dhobya marat pyasa. The washerman is in the water and is dying of thirst. Or there is a fish which is dying of thirst because though it is in water. Which means something is very close to us, something is our own, and yet we somehow don't feel it is there. So this turning within is very much emphasized. Paranchikhani vyatranat, our khani refers to actually senses. These senses have been made to go outward, and along with it our mind, along with it our samskaras, along with it our likes and dislikes. They've all been going out, and we are always searching for that which is very much we like, anukula, mano-anukula. That is very much within our, what we find very appealing and appeasing. And that which is not appealing and appeasing, we are trying to avoid. You will see most of the struggles are about these two only. What we want, which is very appealing, very appeasing, and that which is giving us unhappiness, how to avoid that. All struggle seems to be in these two things only. So he says the mind is always in that. Tasmat parang pashyati. But suppose kaschid dhiraha. There is somebody who is very brave, who stops listening to the howling sound of the people around to say, look, your happiness lies outside, and he says, no, my happiness lies within. He says, the Upanishad says, Dhira. Such a person is a brave person. If you examine today's consumerist society in which we live, there is so much emphasis is laid on advertisements. And what is the purpose of advertisements? To make you feel that the object of your happiness is outside, and go on searching for that. Go on having more and more of it. They have to sell their products. In order to sell their products, they need that there should be desire in your mind. So how do we create the desire? We'll say, look, if you have this object with you, all your unhappiness will go. That's a different issue whether it will go or not. But that is what they advertise. So Kaschit Dhiya, somebody takes a different step. He says, no, let me think differently. And Acharya Shankara says, it is like somebody who is standing against the flow of the river. And he goes to the very source of the river. Lokasya kaschit nadyaha pratisrotah pravartanam iva dhiro. Which means it was flowing. Everybody is going in search of happiness in these things, but he stands up and he goes within. And how it is symbolized? Pratyagatman aikshat avrat chakshu. He kind of closes his eyes. You see, in our all spiritual pictures, the pictures of Rama or Shiva, pictures of Devi, Buddha, Ramakrishna, Vivekananda, you will find that they have closed their eyes. What are they looking in? You say they are meditating. What they are meditating on? Why are they meditating? When the world outside is so fascinating, when it is so beautiful. So that's where we have to learn the important fact that there is something more beautiful, much more peaceful, much more joyful within than what is available outside. So this looking within, where a person finds an eternal source of happiness, is what a dhira, a brave person, a spiritually brave person. See, bravery is of different types. There is one bravery of a person who is fighting on the border. He has to stand and face the difficult situations and the enemy. That's one kind of bravery. Another kind of bravery is he has to stand up against a social evil. He stands up there and despite all demands and pressure, he holds on to that. But there is a different spiritual kind of bravery where very few people actually go to that. Spiritual bravery, where a person goes within amritattva michan in search of the amritattva. See, amritattva has got two meanings. One is eternal, which always exists, amritattva or amrita. And second is that which is very tasty, full of joy. Sometimes you say, how was some particular thing you ate? Oh, it was like amrita, which means something very blissful. So that which is eternal and that which is full of joy, they are identical. That is what is being said here. He therefore closes his eyes. He closes his senses actually. By eyes is meant the senses. So what is the immediate takeaway from this discussion? Immediate takeaway is that we must learn to look within, examine ourselves, our priorities, our values, what we are inside trying to build up as our own inner world of importance, that if I have this, then I will be happy. Is it really so? We should examine. We should examine what is really our need and what is our greed. There's a difference between the two. Many times we think it is our need, but if you examine very carefully, it is not your need. Your needs were very simple. Your needs are very few. But we have added a lot of public value to that. So we call it as greed. So greed has to be avoided. Needs have to be fulfilled. So this is looking within. Further, when we are trying to focus, everyone is focusing or focused on something. Says, why not focus on the Lord? Why not focus on that which never changes, which is of the nature of joy? We are focusing on so many types of things in the world. In today's world, when we have so much of attention deficit, people cannot focus at all. Every now and then they need to check their mobile whether any message has come or whether anything I have to post. That it has distracted so much. So, say if you really want to bring calmness of your mind, look within. And in the next verse, I'm not going into discussion, just make a reference to that. He says, those who don't understand, paracha kama anunyanti balahate, they're children. See, the Upanishad's definition of a child is not as per his chronology of age. He is a 5-year child. No, they are not speaking of. There is a chronological age, the age we all have, and there is also the psychological age. So, they are referring to psychological age. Those who are searching for only external things, so they are like children, and they are not therefore praying for the eternal. They are praying for only that which is ever changing. That who makes this understanding clear to him, he will never pray for only that which is ever changing. Meaning is that if we learn to how we control the mind in the way of self-examination, self-evaluation, and finding out, are we going in the right direction? One of our senior monks used to say, if every day you spend some time just to think over how you spent your whole day, how you spent your time, what were your activities, what were your reactions, what were your actions, what were the various ways in which you spent your physical and psychological energies, just a few minutes every day, that itself will give a right direction, and we will be able to discover that many of our mistakes were avoidable in life. Because we don't turn within, we don't examine, we make so many mistakes. We get into all kinds of silly errors in life. So let us have some time for our inner reflection and try to think of the divine within us. That is how we can surely enrich our lives. So these are a few thoughts I thought I will share with you. Thank you. Namaste.